Hello YouTube and welcome to the Miniature Construction Company. Now the subject of today's video is going to be concerning this little buggy, a Wltoys 144001, and we're going to be sorting out a few issues it's got, and today we're going to be trying to sort out the issue it has with its suspension. Now it may look alright until we do this and this. So as you can see, the suspension has become rather saggy and doesn't really rebound. To give you an example of how bad it has got, here's a brand new one. Now, this has only been used once, but you can immediately see it returns a lot easier with a lot less sag. I'll do it again for you. Like I said, this is almost touching the chassis is almost touching the top of the table. So hopefully we're going to restore the suspension and restore the amount of travel it has. And we're going to be doing this by rebuilding the shock absorbers. Now the first thing we're going to do is obviously remove the shock absorbers. Now this is a fairly straightforward task on this. In there, there's only a few pins that hold them on. Like I say, it's the first time I've ever done this, so it'll be interesting for me as well, because I've never rebuilt a set of shocks in an RC car before. So there you go, 2 bolts and they're out. Right then, that's all 4 shocks removed. Now I'm presuming we've got to remove the spring first. So if we just slide that collar out, then the spring drops neatly off the bottom, and empty the old oil out. I've got an old glass jar lid, so presuming you just unscrew the cap. Oh yes. Let's have a look. Now there's always a little diaphragm in the top of the shock, so just a quick visual check to make sure that isn't damaged. It looks pretty good actually. Now it might be that the shocks have gone a bit saggy because they need more oil in them, but we'll find out. Try and clean it up. But like I say, that the diaphragm in the cap in this one looks okay. Looks to be like a little pin in there. So I think what we've got to do is try and unscrew this eyelet here off the bottom of the, hang on, what's this here? Ah, some O-rings in there. Right, I think what I'm going to have to do is try and hold this shaft while I unscrew this eyelet, and the whole assembly will be able to be withdrawn this end, and then we can have a look at the damper rod and the seals inside. Now I've managed to remove the eyelet from the damper rod. I did this by putting a piece of cloth around the damper rod, holding it gently with a pair of pliers and literally unscrewing it. How the damper rod works is that the little disc on the top has got some little holes in it, and as the damper rod moves up and down the cylinder and fluid passes through those holes, there's resistance there, and that's what provides the damping. So the other end, we've got a little cap that we can unscrew, and oh, there we have some O-rings and seals. Now that's, yeah, so we can take those out, but we've got to remember which order they went back in, and we can just give them a bit of a clean. Yes, I've got two little tiny O-rings in there. Looks like there's a plastic washer, nylon washer in there as well. But I'm not going to take that out because it looks okay. Just going to give these a quick wipe and then we can reassemble.
As long as we remember which way everything went in, we should be alright.
Okay, well, I've reinstalled the damper rod, put the eyelet back on the rod itself, and now what we're going to do is fill it full of oil. Now, I've been on a couple of forums and people recommend sort of between 800 and 1000 CST thickness of oil. So I've actually got some 1000 lying around, so that's what we're going to use to top these shocks up. First of all, I'll put a bit of oil in. So we pump the damper rod up and down a few times. This is a bit where it goes everywhere. So we get rid of the air in the cylinder. Okay, I can't see any more air coming out of it. So we're just going to top it up, stick the cap back on. Oh. Now I am expecting to lose a little bit of oil out the top. So that's the shock filled up with oil to an acceptable level. There's a nice amount of damping in there now. So all that's left for us to do is to refit the spring and the spring collar. And I can tell you now that that is a lot better than the ones we haven't done yet. So what I shall do is repeat the process for these other three and get back to you. Right, all four shocks have been stripped, cleaned and re-oiled. What did we think? Well, there's definitely less sag, and the suspension seems to spring up to a reasonable level. It's not quite the same as the factory fresh buggy that we've got to compare it to, but then again, compared with that, it's very soft, and it doesn't really spring back. Well, it seems to spring back to the same sort of height. Look. Apart from the one I've messed with has got a bit more damping in it. The chassis doesn't slap the table though anymore, and it certainly isn't sitting like that. So I'm going to chalk that one up as a win, even though I think 1000 viscosity oil might be a touch on the high side. I don't know. Like I say, I've had no real experience with these little buggies, so this is new to me, but I'm going to say that seems a lot better than it was. And it won't be dragging its backside around everywhere now either. I think if you're going to tinker with this, maybe trying a few different viscosities of oil would be beneficial, I think, just to see, and you could sort of try them back to back. But I'm going to, like I say, I'm going to chalk that up to a win, because that definitely seems a lot more compliant. As ever, if you've enjoyed the video and you found it of some use or interest, give it a thumbs up, and do me a favour and click that subscribe button at the bottom. It makes a massive difference to making content for you guys. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.